Hello, my loves, it's Yvie. Without Angie again, poor little thing's sick, so we're having another best of. This episode, we spoke about hearts and not parts and why it's really important to use pronouns. And we also got a DM and spoke about a woman who was misdiagnosed. So enjoy the episode again, or for the first time if you haven't heard it before, and you'll hear our fresh voices next week. We asked people who listen to the show if you'd like to DM us or email us anything, just your thoughts, what you think. We did get one. I'm just going to read it out. I just listened to your first episode of Two Girls, One Pot, and usually I skip anything to do with eating disorders. I was diagnosed with anorexia in 2014-15 and have relapsed several times, but getting better now. I love how you discussed it, but would love to recommend the absolute stigma about eating disorders. When I reached out for help, I was basically rejected for not being sick enough. And then I relapsed. This is such a stigma that needs to be discussed. Thank you so much for discussing it either way in such a compassionate and understanding way. Love you, ladies.
That would have been hard.
I think the lady who wrote that will know who it is, and we thank you so much for sending that and being so vulnerable to us.
That's such a brave thing for her to do because like we've discussed in past episodes, it is quite hard to discuss eating disorders, which then obviously got us talking about doctors, and that's kind of where it starts from. If you don't have a good general practitioner and you go in and you say something, they're like, well, just eat. It's all downhill.
Or stop eating or start eating. Get on the scales first. Oh, my God. Did you know that you do not ever have to be weighed by the doctor, ever? One thing I do know about GPs that I've never known until recently is they are general practitioners.
Yes. Oh, I love telling people that.
They know about medicine generally. They are not specialists. What they need to do is recognise there's something wrong, especially if they can't see it and you are just telling them there is something wrong, and they need to then refer you to a specialist, whether that be mental, physical.
Don't diagnose you with anything.
The amount of dismissal from general practitioners is infuriating, and it goes in so many different ways, especially eating disorders. Because it's just such it's not a new thing. It is a new thing that's been diagnosed. It's the same as a spectrum disorder. It's so newly labelled that, they've become really good at like sending people the right way when it comes to a parent bringing in a child with a spectrum disorder, going, well, I don't know what the spectrum disorder is going to be, but what I'm going to do is send you in the right direction so people can start looking at this properly. Women with eating disorders go to doctors. If they're not thin enough, they don't have anorexia. If they're fat, they can't have an eating disorder. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. When I first started out with my eating disorder back in high school, I remember this one, it's so, how certain memories stay out in your mind so much.
Yes.
There was this one doctor, we went and saw him quite a lot, but then he started kind of saying and doing things that you just shouldn't, you couldn't get away with now. And I remember I think I was about 14 or 15 and I was just skin and bones. And I remember he lifted up my shirt and he was like, you're very skinny and you're way too dark, because I would sit in the sun. And I just went, okay. And he's like, you need to stay out of the sun. And I was like, what the? And because he lifted up my shirt.
Ooh.
And I was like, number one, you've now given me more things to think about. Now I'd be like, okay, not that I'd ever experienced it, but being a young girl, I was like, oh, he's lifting up my shirt and he's pointing at my body, picking on it. And that's what I didn't need to hear. And my mum had an experience with him one time where he grabbed her fat and he goes, you need to lose a little bit of this at the doctor. And he grabbed her tummy.
That is disgusting.
And my mum would definitely have some kind of hidden eating disorder because she covers her body all the time. I never see my mum with her arms out. She'll never have her boobs, cleavage. She's very protected, probably because she has random straight men pinching her fat, telling her to lose weight.
You don't even realise the trauma that creates. Just someone uninvited grabbing your body. I make sure I always have amazing GPs. They'll say, is it okay if I have a look? I'm going to pop your shirt up now. Is that okay? And I'm going to touch you here. Is that okay? And you give permission. That's how it should be. I mean, it's changed definitely to them just grabbing you, but there'd still be doctors doing that.
100%.
I went to a doctor recently, my GP, who wasn't there. All I wanted was to have a look how my iron levels were going because I have really low iron, like dangerously low iron. And I had another blood test, as you have to keep doing when you have any kind of anything wrong with you. You have to keep getting your blood test done to see what's happening. And all I wanted to do was just see how my recent blood test with my iron was going. I got in. My GP wasn't there. There was another GP there instead, old school GP, old guy, straight man, said to me, your iron levels are great. That should have been it, right? Thanks, doc. I'll make an appointment with my regular GP for next time, but that's good to know. Thank you, goodbye. He just went, but I'm looking at other things and you look like you're going to get diabetes. And I said, oh my God, am I pre-diabetic? And he goes, no, you're not pre-diabetic, you're pre-diabetic.
What?
Oh, well, what does that mean? And he goes, well, just you need to lose some weight. And I was like, I didn't come in here for this. I didn't say anything like that. And I just left and cried, as you do, as every person who gets talked about their weight, whether they're overweight or underweight or normal weight, there's nothing wrong with you and your weight, you're healthy. There's no indicators in any testing that you're unhealthy in any way, but they will tell you, well, you could be, so lose weight. There's a girl on Instagram. Her name is Amanda Paints. If you want to follow her, she's so amazing. She came out of a doctor. She sat in a car. She was bawling her eyes out. She's American. And she was saying, I have had so much pain in my abdomen that I've not been able to eat for so long. Like, that's how painful. There's something wrong with me. And it's taken her a couple of months to get in to see this gastroenterologist who was extremely recommended, like waiting list. She waited, she got in. The doctor said to her when she said, I haven't been able to eat. And she said to her, this is a specialist, said, well, is that a bad thing? Oh. And she left and she was so upset and she did this TikTok, Instagram, whatever it was, it went viral. There was a doctor in the UK that got onto it, got onto his colleagues, like just people he knew, contacts in the US, got her another gastroenterologist to have an actual look at her. She had bowel cancer. Oh. That's why she was so sick. They just saved her life. They just saved her life. And if he didn't do that, if she didn't say something, she wouldn't have gone back to a doctor. This is happening so much. There's so many people who will not go to doctors.
They're petrified. And you don't want to hear from another doctor or another specialist, especially I can only talk from as a woman with my own hormonal things going on, that, oh, okay, if you don't want to go on the pill, then you'll just have to live in pain forever. And I'm like, how can you, with your devil dick and your inside organs, tell me that I'm supposed to be walking around with organs that you don't even have numero uno, and then you're then just going to be like, oh, well, if you're not going to go on the pill, then this is your life now. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm going to get somebody that actually wants to listen to me and do the work and treat. And there are people, but I find it infuriating that a lot of doctors and sometimes specialists, especially when it comes to endometriosis, PCOS, fibroids, whatever, they'll just go, oh, well, if you're not willing to go on the pill. I'm like, I don't want a synthetic drug in my body messing up my hormones even more. The pill does not suit this body. This body has its own story.
And you've tried it and it didn't work. The doctor should have then said, well, we've tried that and it didn't work.
My naturopath says it because I always say to any doctor and they hate it. I'm like, no, my naturopath knows I can't go on the pill.
Oh, that would be like a red rag to a bull, wouldn't it?
They go, oh, why don't you go back to your naturopath? I'm like, can't you guys work together to help me, not your egos?
The fact that we have to do so much work to find good specialists, to find good doctors, is ridiculous. I mean, how many shit doctors are They're out there. And that's why we need to keep talking to each other. We need to always keep it open where people can say, I know someone in that area who is brilliant. You know, that's why WhatsApp groups are great. All of a sudden you'll have this one person say, hey guys, you know, I just wanted to say this is wrong with me. Does anyone know of anything? And you'll have this influx of support and recommendations.
That's what I love to use my Instagram for. And I know this saying recently when I share my stuff about endometriosis or PCOS or anything, anxiety, knowledge is power, but shared knowledge is even more powerful. And when you get a team of women that have been through the ringer and they're sharing out all their knowledge through, you know, a naturopath or a specialist or a healer, that's the most powerful thing. And that's what we need to do more of. So general practitioners are general. Make sure you always go to an actual specialist.
If your specialist is not great for you, either find another specialist. The most frustrating part is the waiting game. It's the waiting out to get into a specialist, and it's even longer now that, you know, we've got COVID. So, you know, during a pandemic, it makes it even harder to get in to see actual doctors. But anyway, keep trying. We are not doctors, so anything that we say is all just our own opinion.
But always happy to refer to people that we know that have worked for us personally, but everybody's body is different.
Angie?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk to me about these days? What's on your mind?
So I really, really enjoyed this did this come from me? Yeah, it was an inbox I received from a listener about pronouns. And this is what they said. They think that it's an area that many people are scared or embarrassed to touch on. I've always kept my Instagram private from family and friends until this week. I don't know why. But I want to normalize different pronouns, but I'm already thought of as a crazy feminist. I feel that in my family and don't want to put them on my profile for that reason. I'm a 32-year-old female and identify that way. This is something that we've spoken about a bit, and I feel it's very close to my heart. Always has. Just anything where a group of people want to be heard and are saying something, I'm always willing to listen. And I think pronouns, it's huge at the moment, and it's just like anything. I feel once we get used to something, it's going to be like second nature. It's like riding a bike. When you first saw that bike, you were wigged out. It's this thing with two wheels. You didn't know what it was, but your family created space for you to be like, get on it. Keep giving it a go. And now you're like, cool, there's a bike.
And it was hard at first. It was really hard to learn how to ride it. And you kept falling over, but you kept getting back on and giving it another red hot go because you knew it was part of the community, a part of society. It's what we all did. So you get there, you eventually go, I'm going to be a really good bike rider.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll be in the Olympics at the Tour de France, but I think I might be taking it a little bit too far. But it is like that. It really is like learning anything new. It's a struggle to begin with, and then it just becomes, what do you say, like off the back of your hand, like I bloody know it, like the back of my hand.
Yeah, that's it. I think people just get so much, it's the fear in them makes them not want to learn. But just like anything, everything at first is scary until you get to know it. And I feel like there's a few notes I really want to make sure I point out of this, because gender identity was forced on us, obviously, when we were younger. When you're a girl, you know, you like dolls. If you're a boy, you like, I don't know, whatever, football and whatnot. But that's gender expressions. And there's so much on it. Like, I'm currently hanging out with somebody that doesn't identify as either. And I think learning so much through this person, we really need to hold space for these people, because I'm a cis woman and I was born in the body that I identify with. Not everybody gets that. What's the word?
Luxury.
Yeah. And we really need to understand and hold space for these people, and realizing that, you know, pronouns are important. Listen and learn.
Be open. I think that people are just, they know what they know, they're used to what they're used to, and it's, you know, some people, they just don't care about other people. They're like, I don't give a shit. I don't want, I mean, it's that whole, anti people, anti this, anti that. They're just looking for things to be anti, and this is just another one. I remember when Instagram brought out the pronouns.
Yes.
On your bio, I changed it immediately.
Me too. When I learnt how to, I was like, I don't know. Again, I was like, I don't know how to do it, but I did it.
You learned, didn't you? You just kept trying until you got it, and you made a few mistakes along the way. You were fine.
Exactly.
So I think it's nice to know what people are, what they identify as themselves. It's respectful and it's kind, and that at the end of the day, if you can't be respectful and kind, then you really need to have a really good look within and ask yourself, am I the asshole?
Yeah, why are you not wanting to hold space for this?
Yeah, just to be respectful and kind. Why do you not want to be respectful and kind?
I think it's mostly, to be honest, I do find I've been spending a lot of time explaining, because a lot of people don't know, especially with non-binary, they don't get it because they never had to. So they're kind of like, wait, so they're born in a female body, but they don't identify with that. But if they want to learn, I'm so happy to sit there and be like, well, this is what I've learned, so I'm happy to pass this information on. But if you then are not wanting to learn and you're just like, nah, don't get it, they were born with a vagina, so they're a woman. I just think, don't. No, we have had the pleasure and the luxury of being born in the body that we want to be in. Not everybody does. And nobody knows their body better than themselves. So listen to that person. I read that somewhere recently and it really stuck with me, because it's like, nobody knows. Nobody should tell you who you are. Only you know who you are.
I saw the best TikTok. It always comes down to TikTok with me. It was this family. It was I think even maybe a dodo thing. Like, it was done up. It was beautifully shot. But it was done in like 3 minutes. It was really short, and how this couple had a baby and they decided not to gender the baby and let the baby grow up and gender itself. And you're immediately just like, oh, how can you do that? Like, how's that going to work in society? Like, you're just going to be having fights all the time with people. But the way it went through, the story pretty quickly. I'm going to try to find it so I can share it on our socials, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful, like, they never thought of the child as a boy or a girl, the baby as a boy or a girl. So they gave it everything. They gave it every gender toy. They gave it every colour. They just kept thinking, if they are a boy or a girl, they gave them a name. And the funniest part of the whole thing was watching the comments. The comments were filled with, oh my God, this was so brilliant to watch and it was so well done, but I hated the kid's name. I can't remember the kid's name. It was something like Symbol or something. Like, it was just like wind. Like, it was this really, and everyone took offence to the name, which was brilliant, really, because it certainly wasn't, what the parents did. And by the time they had the child, let the child grow their hair, choose what they wanted to wear, choose what they wanted to play with. They were offered everything to play with, every experience. And I think when the child was 6, they said they were a boy, and they had their hair cut the way they wanted to have it cut. And it was so beautiful the way their parents just did hold that space for that child to grow and develop and make that choice. And they said, and that's the choice the child's made for now.
Yes.
Like, that may change.
And why does it matter so much? Like, we were just told from so young that it matters, and it really doesn't.
No. And you know what? I was at a friend's house about maybe 2 months ago, and her husband, and they've got 2 beautiful teenage boys, and I was talking about, I think I was even actually talking about you and that you were pansexual, and then I talked about something else like cisgendered, and they were like, you know what, because they felt safe enough to ask me, what does pansexual mean? What does, bisexual, we know what bisexual, and the 4 of them sat and listened to everything I explained to them, and they just took it on. They were just
That's what I love.
Oh, it's so good to know. So good to know. So 2 teenage boys who were just, and I wasn't telling them anything. I was telling them something that they didn't know, but it wasn't anything that was frightening. It wasn't anything that was weird or shameful. They were just like, Yeah.
There's so much more surrounding it now, which is absolutely, thank God. I mean, it's slowly but surely.
Yeah, and like anything, it just is a matter of time.
Exactly. And there's so much on it. We should put on our Angie and Yvie page. There's also this really good little podcast I was listening to. It was just about gender, and it's called My Amazing Body. We'll pop that on. My friend told me to listen to it, and I was learning so much about the difference between gender identity isn't the same as your sexuality, and you've really got to start learning more about that so you're not so fearful. But yeah, we'll pop that on our show notes as well.
And it's good.
Because I'm learning so much. I love it. Oh, one last thing before we wrap this. I loved this part of the podcast. It says a little boy said to his dad, not a boy, a guy at school, because obviously they'll learn way more about it than we did. It's hearts, not parts.
Oh, that's so true.
So take the time to listen, because we've all got a heart. We're all humans. Doesn't matter what your gender is. It's hearts, not parts. Be kind, learn. Frickin' learn. It's not hard. You didn't know what a bike was once, and now you do.
Yeah. Now you're popping monos. Bye.
You wheelies. Frickin' burnouts.
Spokey dokies on your wheels. Well, that's us done for another episode, Angela Bernice Kent.
It sure is. Good chat, girl.
Good chat to you. Please head to Apple Pod. You do the outro.
All right. Please head to Apple Podcasts and rate and review with a show. You can get in touch with us directly by emailing us, slide into our DMs. You know, we love a good DM slide, and we always love to hear if you have any questions, anything you want us to talk about, because you know what, we're open books, so come at us. Come at us, homies. We love you, and we'll speak to you next week.